Welcome to our Hong Kong Brief program. Today, we have some intriguing stories lined up for you. First up, imagine being on a British Airways flight that turns back to London after 11 hours in the air due to a technical issue. Yes, that's an 11-hour flight to nowhere. Next, in the realm of legal and political drama, Jimmy Lai's son has called on foreign judges to quit Hong Kong, citing pressure to support Beijing's crackdown on pro-democracy protesters. Finally, financial markets are on edge as Zhongji Enterprise Group's liquidation raises concerns about the potential fallout for 247 related companies. Please stay tuned for the detailed coverage of these stories and more. Thank you for watching, and please continue to stay tuned for more details. The Independent. Passengers aboard British Airways Flight BA31 experienced a grueling 11-hour journey that ultimately led them back to London Heathrow after a technical issue forced the plane to turn around mid-flight. The Boeing 777-200, which had been en route to Hong Kong, was 4 hours into its journey when the crew decided to return as a precaution. The aircraft, flying over Turkmenistan at 35,000 feet, made the long trek back, landing safely at Heathrow. The rescheduled flight the following day faced further complications, diverting to Budapest due to a medical emergency. This incident is reminiscent of other recent flights to nowhere, including a British Airways service from London to Texas that turned back after crossing into North America, and an Air New Zealand flight from Auckland to Chicago that returned after developing a technical fault. The Independent. Sebastian Lai, son of media mogul Jimmy Lai, has called for all foreign judges to resign from Hong Kong's judicial system, claiming they are pressured to conform to Beijing's crackdown on pro-democracy protesters. Speaking at a press club in Canberra, Australia, Sebastian highlighted the plight of his 76-year-old father, who faces life imprisonment under Hong Kong's national security law. Critics argue that the presence of foreign judges lends legitimacy to Hong Kong's compromised rule of law. Nearly half of the foreign judges have stepped down since the law's enactment, with those remaining accused of perpetuating a false sense of judicial independence. Sebastian urged the Australian government to join international efforts to pressure Beijing for his father's release, echoing sentiments from a British judge who resigned, citing Hong Kong's shift towards totalitarianism. Nikkei Asia. In the wake of Zhongji Enterprise Group's liquidation, multiple Chinese-listed companies have warned investors of potential fallout. The liquidator, Beijing Desheng Law Offices, has proposed consolidating Zhongji and its 247 related companies into a single entity to streamline the bankruptcy process. Zhongji, a major private trust company, was declared bankrupt due to severe liquidity issues and uncollectible receivables. The liquidation process has raised concerns among companies with ties to Zhongji, such as Xinjiang Zhuandong Petroleum Technology and Holshine Medical Technology, about potential shifts in ownership and operational disruptions. Zhongji's bankruptcy highlights the broader risks within China's property crisis and shadow banking sector, with experts warning of the ripple effects on the wider economy. South China Morning Post reports that PwC has reduced its forecast for Hong Kong's IPO market in 2024 by 20%, predicting fundraising will reach about $10.2 billion. The high interest rate environment and cautious investor sentiment have led to a significant drop in funds raised from new share sales, causing Hong Kong to fall to 13th place globally in IPO markets. Despite the slow start, PwC remains cautiously optimistic, expecting a rebound in the second half of the year driven by global capital flows and new Chapter 18C listing rules aimed at attracting tech companies. Key IPOs this year include Sichuan Baicha Baidao Industrial's $2.58 billion Hong Kong dollars deal and RoboSense Technologies' $1.06 billion Hong Kong dollars share sale. The Globe and Mail highlights that global markets were down on Tuesday, with European inflation and French elections in focus, causing negative futures for Wall Street and TSX. European stocks fell after a short-lived relief rally from the French parliamentary elections, with investors eyeing the next round of voting and European inflation data. In the U.S., Treasury yields remained elevated, reflecting investor sentiment towards a potential Trump victory and its inflationary implications. Oil prices hovered near two-month highs due to expected summer demand and potential supply disruptions from Hurricane Beryl. The Canadian dollar showed slight gains against the US dollar, while the euro and British pound saw minor declines. South China Morning Post delves into the rich history of Chinese fragrance culture through the exhibition Fragrance of Time, in search of Chinese art of scent at the Hong Kong Museum of Art. Co-curated with the Shanghai Museum, the exhibition showcases 160 sets of scent materials, illustrating the deep-rooted significance of fragrances in Chinese religious, imperial, literary, and artistic traditions. Highlights include national treasures like Chen Hongshou's Lady reclining on a cage over a censer and a Southern Liang Dynasty gold-painted stone Buddha. The exhibition features aromatic scent corners for an immersive experience, allowing visitors to engage with the historical scents. Hong Kong artists contribute interactive installations, re-examining the city's fragrant trade history. The exhibition runs until October 16. South China Morning Post reports that Hong Kong's retail sales witnessed an 11.5% drop in May compared to the previous year, marking the second consecutive month of double-digit declines. This downturn is largely attributed to the rising trend of cross-border spending. The Census and Statistics Department revealed that sales contracted to 30.5 billion Hong Kong dollars, following a 14.7% decrease in April. A government spokesperson highlighted the shifting consumption patterns of both visitors and residents and the strong Hong Kong dollar as key factors. Despite these challenges, measures announced by the central government, such as enhancing the individual visit scheme and increasing the duty-free allowance for mainland visitors, are expected to stimulate retail activity. The first 5 months of 2024 saw a 6.1% drop in retail sales compared to the same period last year. Over a recent long weekend, immigration data showed a significant increase in outbound travelers, with 1.26 million Hong Kongers leaving the city, up from 548,887 the previous year. In another report by South China Morning Post, Hong Kong police have issued a warning about a scam involving fraudsters impersonating the retail chain Mannings. The scammers sent phishing messages claiming that victims' reward points were about to expire, luring them to a fake website to purchase electronic goods at extremely low prices. The victims were tricked into entering their credit card details, resulting in losses amounting to 270,000 Hong Kong dollars, 34,600 US dollars, in just 1 week. The police emphasized the importance of verifying the legitimacy of websites before providing personal or financial information and suggested using the Scammeter search engine on the Cyberdefender website or app to identify fraudulent schemes. Despite a slight decrease in overall deception reports, with 15,750 cases in the first 5 months of 2024 compared to 15,792 in the same period last year, the public is urged to remain vigilant. Additionally, South China Morning Post reports that China has called for the Philippines to find and severely punish those responsible for the murder of a kidnapped Chinese citizen. The Chinese embassy in Manila was informed of the kidnapping and had coordinated with the Philippine National Police's Anti-Kidnapping Bureau, but the victim was ultimately killed alongside a Chinese American. The victims, whose identities remain undisclosed, were reportedly involved in the medical device industry. The incident has prompted diplomatic intervention, with China urging the Philippines to intensify efforts to investigate and apprehend the culprits. Chinese media reported that the victims were killed after a ransom of 3 million yuan, $412,600 US dollars, was paid. In response, China's ambassador to the Philippines met with Philippine officials to discuss enhancing cooperation against transnational crimes, including kidnapping and human trafficking. This incident is part of a troubling trend of kidnappings involving Chinese nationals in the Philippines, often linked to illegal gambling and telecom fraud. South China Morning Post reports that Hong Kong police have arrested 2 men following a violent robbery where a businessman was attacked and robbed of a luxury Patek Philippe watch worth 800,000 Hong Kong dollars, $102,411. The incident occurred outside Lik Sang Plaza in Tsuen Wan, where 4 assailants assaulted the 30-year-old victim, stealing his watch, handbag, mobile phone, and 3,000 Hong Kong dollars in cash before fleeing in a getaway car driven by a 5th accomplice. Senior Inspector Chung Mantik revealed that the robbery stemmed from a financial dispute. The police, who are still on the hunt for at least 3 more suspects, have impounded the getaway car and are continuing their investigation. The businessman, though injured, did not require hospitalization. The police have emphasized their commitment to bringing all perpetrators to justice, noting that robbery charges can result in life imprisonment. The number of robbery cases in Hong Kong has decreased by 28% in the first 5 months of the year compared to the same period last year. Nikkei Asia highlights a series of economic measures introduced by the Chinese government to boost Hong Kong's economy, coinciding with the 27th anniversary of the city's handover from Britain. These measures include the gifting of a pair of giant pandas, visa-free access to mainland China for non-Chinese permanent residents, and an expansion of duty-free spending allowances for mainland visitors. Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee expressed gratitude to Beijing and took credit for suggesting these initiatives. He also mentioned ongoing negotiations to upgrade the Closer Economic Partnership Arrangement, CEPA, focusing on service sectors where Hong Kong excels, such as legal, finance, and construction. The pandas, to be housed at Ocean Park, are expected to enhance tourism and conservation efforts. The visa-free policy, allowing up to 90-day visits for Hong Kong permanent residents, aims to strengthen Hong Kong's role as a business hub. Critics argue that the one country, two systems principle has been undermined by Beijing's tightening control, particularly after the imposition of a national security law in 2020. Lee urged the city to capitalize on these new measures, despite concerns that the increased duty-free allowance might not be competitive enough to attract mainland tourists. South China Morning Post also reports a surge in demand for new 5-year multi-entry travel permits to mainland China for Hong Kong permanent residents holding foreign passports. This follows the National Immigration Administration's announcement, allowing applications starting July 10. The online booking quota quickly filled up, prompting Chief Executive John Lee to negotiate with the Chinese agency for more slots. Lee emphasized that the new measure enhances Hong Kong's unique status and advantages, fostering greater interaction between non-Chinese residents and mainlanders. Ethnic minority members praised the policy, noting it simplifies previously complex and time-consuming visa procedures. The new permits allow for short-term visits of up to 90 days for purposes like investment, tourism, and business, but not for work or study. The policy also facilitates easier access to services like bank accounts and driving licenses in mainland China. Lawmaker Eunice Yung Huiyan expressed hope that the scheme would encourage more non-Chinese Hong Kongers to visit the mainland, fostering better understanding and relations. Associated Press Asian shares displayed a mixed performance on Tuesday following gains on Wall Street and a jump in U.S. bond yields driven by election-related dynamics. U.S. futures dipped, while oil prices saw an uptick. The Japanese yen fell to a near 38-year low at 161.67 yen to the dollar, prompting Tokyo's Nikkei 225 to rise by 1.1% to 40,074.69 due to increased buying of export-oriented shares. Conversely, Australia's S&P ASX 200 dropped 0.4% to 7,718.20, and South Korea's Kospi fell 0.8% to 2,781.92 despite a slowdown in consumer inflation. Hong Kong's Hang Seng climbed 0.3% to 17,775.84, while the Shanghai Composite edged up 0.1% to 2,995.78. The S&P 500 rose 0.3%, the Dow Jones Industrial Average edged up 0.1%, and the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.8%. In Europe, France's CAC 40 index surged by 2.8% before settling at a 1.1% gain, amid political developments suggesting a far-right party might not achieve a decisive majority. This year's elections globally, including the upcoming UK polls and the US presidential debate fallout, are influencing market movements. Treasury yields spiked, with the 10-year yield climbing to 4.46%, reflecting increased prospects for a Republican sweep in November and hopes for Federal Reserve rate cuts later this year. Telegraph London's summer art auction season, traditionally a financial boon, is facing challenges. Despite over 50 galleries participating in London Art Week and new fairs like Eye of the Collector and the Treasure House Fair, auction sales have dwindled. June 2015 saw sales peak at £600 million, but by June 2019, they had fallen to £353 million, and last week to just £130 million. Factors include global economic conditions, the pandemic, Brexit, and competition from New York, Hong Kong, and Paris. A significant issue is the shortage of valuable works, with London hosting 3 high-profile auctions annually compared to New York's 2, leading to supply constraints in June. Philips summer sales dropped from £23.8 million in June 2022 to £13 million last week. Christie's sales plummeted from £228 million in June 2022 to £10.4 million, partly due to strategic decisions to support new venues in Hong Kong. Sotheby's, however, remains committed to London's summer auctions, with last week's sale realising £83.6 million. Meanwhile, Longleat's looted treasure, Titian's The Rest on the Flight into Egypt, is back on sale, expected to fetch between £15 million and £25 million. Cricket-themed art exhibitions in Mayfair and other cultural events continue to attract visitors. Telegraph prices in British shops fell between May and June, providing some relief to family finances. The British Retail Consortium's shop price index showed a 0.2% drop in average costs, marking the slowest pace of inflation since October 2021. This easing boosts hopes that the Bank of England might cut interest rates without triggering another inflation crisis. Food prices rose by 2.5% year-on-year, while non-food items saw a 1% decrease. Retailers' efforts to cut costs during the pandemic and energy crisis are paying off, with falling prices for essentials like butter and coffee. Sainsbury's reported a 4.8% growth in its grocery business, despite a decline in general merchandise and Argos sales. The supermarket's CEO highlighted their focus on value and quality. Meanwhile, Shoe Zone issued a profit warning due to bad weather and high shipping costs, revising its profit forecast down from £15.2 million to £10 million. Overall, the easing of shop prices suggests a possible reduction in interest rates by the Bank of England, providing further financial relief to households. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.